Right before the final concert of my world tour, I received a notification 5 million yuan had been deducted from my bank card. Curious and a little confused, I checked the transaction details. Alicia, my fiancée, had used my card to purchase the Steinway Black Diamond piano, the one I'd custom ordered 6 months ago. I was stunned. But before I could even process it, there it was. That very same piano, placed in front of her student. I raised an eyebrow, said nothing, and carried on with the performance as though everything was normal. Afterward, I called all the students to gather in front of me. Wrapping an arm around Alicia, I smiled coolly. A biased teacher isn't a good teacher, I said, my voice calm but sharp. Whatever Anthony has, the other students should have, too. That same night, Alicia maxed out her bank card. In front of everyone, I announced our engagement was off. I wasn't lacking in wealth or women. I was Noah, the most celebrated pianist in the world. The day had started full of pride. I'd arranged for several of my students to take the stage during the final stop of my tour. I'd taught them for years, this was their moment to shine. Now that I had found mine. You seem in a great mood today, the organizer said with a smile. I nodded, smiling effortlessly. I am. I was looking forward to finally playing the Steinway Black Diamond, the one I'd been anticipating for over half a year. I assumed Alicia bought it to surprise me. Sure, she used my card, but the gesture was enough to warm my heart. I tapped my fingers to the rhythm. Relaxed, waiting for the next piece. That's when I noticed something was wrong. The judges' expressions had changed. I looked up. Anthony, who wasn't scheduled to perform, was on stage, and in front of him my piano. My smile dropped. I turned my gaze to Alicia, who was watching from the audience with excitement on her face. Suddenly, it all made sense. The judges kept polite smiles but clearly felt the tension. One of them spoke, awkwardly trying to lighten the moment. This young man's technique is a bit rough, but the piano is excellent. A Steinway Black Diamond. That's typically reserved for true masters. If his family supports him, he might have a future. Though to reach Noah's level, it'll take time. Their words didn't reassure me, they stung. It felt like everything I'd worked for, the standard I had set, was being mocked. Anthony didn't belong on that stage, and everyone knew it. This was Alicia's doing, but in a way, I had allowed it. I gave her the authority to make decisions for this concert. My mistake. I forced a calm tone. Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse me. Since it's the final concert of the tour, my students were eager to perform. I wanted to give them all a chance. My assistant caught on immediately, and brought up other students with skill levels similar to Anthony's. That way, it wouldn't look like favoritism. I had to protect the rest of my students from being overshadowed by this chaos. When it was finally my turn, Alicia ran over, probably with a new excuse ready, but I walked right past her and took the stage. If something I longed for could be taken away, so I silly, it didn't matter how perfect it was. I preferred what was genuinely mine. Even at the height of personal disappointment, I was still Noah, the poised, world-famous pianist. After the show, Alicia caught up to me. Noah, please, let me explain. Her heels echoed sharply on the floor. People turned to look. I stopped and turned to her. Her mouth opened, but she hesitated. Eventually, she said, I saw how hard Anthony was working. I just wanted to give him a chance. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I smiled. Alicia watched me carefully, trying to read my mood. Seeing that I wasn't angry, she seemed relieved. She wrapped her arm around mine. He reminds me of you, back when you were younger, she said softly. I'm also his teacher's wife. I just wanted to help. I kept my expression warm. I get it. Good intentions, I said. But a biased teacher's wife isn't a good teacher. With that, I turned to the 13 students standing nearby. I raised my voice just enough for everyone to hear. That Black Diamond piano. It was custom-made for me, priceless, and not something you can just buy off the market. But there's another Steinway model worth 3 million yuan and there are 12 still available. A gift is a matter of the heart. I'm sure being short $1 million or $2 million won't be an issue. My assistant stepped forward with the PAS machine. I smiled and looked at Alicia, lifting my chin slightly. Come now. Shouldn't you thank your teacher's wife for the gift? Everyone there was from wealthy families. Most had money. 2 of them got in on pure talent but had since made a good living through performances. A 3 million piano wasn't unreasonable. Still, Alicia's wallet would definitely feel the burn. Everyone went silent for a moment but then accepted the situation and thanked her. Politely, Alicia's smile froze. I tightened my hold around her waist and whispered, "What's wrong? You don't want them to think you're playing favorites, do you?" She exhaled hard. "Of course not." She handed over her card. On the outside, she stayed calm, but her knuckles had gone white. Once the payment was processed, I laughed. For real this time. Anthony stood in the crowd, his expression conflicted. He was trying not to be noticed. I looked at him kindly. "You've been with me the longest. But your skill, it's the weakest. Your teacher's wife went to all this trouble to get you that piano. If you don't work harder, wouldn't that be a waste?" His head lowered, his voice cracked slightly. "I'll work harder." Alicia's eyes brimmed with sympathy. I didn't care for the drama. I walked off. People began whispering. "That Anthony kid, .. He's not at the same level. He must have gotten in through connections. Even Noah doesn't flaunt his wealth like that." Anthony left the venue looking wrecked. That night, Alicia called angry, hurt. "Noah, don't you think? You went too far." I scoffed. "What did I do?" She went silent. The cruelty came from her mistake, not mine. "All right," she said, eventually. "You made your point. Let's move on." She tried to smooth things over. I didn't say yes or no. After a pause, she said, "How about tomorrow? My class is having a reunion. Want to come?" I leaned back. "Send me the address." We were supposed to get engaged next week. As long as she behaved, I wouldn't make trouble. But Alicia didn't know when to stop. The next day, she picked me up personally. "Everyone at the reunion is an old classmate. Since we're getting married, we'll have to stay in touch with them. I thought it'd be good for you to meet them." I agreed. It was just a formality. I assumed she'd make an effort. This was her chance to introduce me properly. But I gave her too much credit. As soon as we walked into the private room, her phone rang. Without saying a word to anyone, she checked the screen, hesitated, then said, "I'll take this," and walked out. She left me alone in a room full of strangers. I wasn't embarrassed, but the distaste in my chest was hard to ignore. Then someone spoke, and it set me off. Only a few days and Alicia's already too busy for her little boyfriend. A man slung his arm over my shoulder. "Hey, you're Anthony, right? I've seen your photos on Alicia's social media. You look cuter online. Are you shy?" Everyone in the room shared awkward looks. She hadn't even introduced me properly. I smiled coldly. "Nice to meet you. I'm Alicia's fiancé." The room froze. The guy who had his arm around me went stiff. Smile stuck awkwardly on his face. Just then, Alicia came back. People looked at her, hoping she'd fix things. But she was distracted. "Noah, Anthony was really upset about yesterday. He practiced all night. His fingers were bleeding." I looked at her. "And what does that have to do with you?" Her frown deepened. "I'm his teacher's wife. You're his teacher. If you won't care, can't I?" She sighed. "He listens only to me now. I'm going to check on him. Wait here." "Okay." She left. The room slowly realized what was happening. "I think we got the wrong idea about you, Noah," one of them said sheepishly. "I'll drink for the mistake. By the way, a wedding." I had nothing left to say. I left the room and called my friend. "Out tonight. Let's celebrate being single again." Up until now, I'd acted like a proper fiancé, faithful, respectful. She saw that as weakness. My silence was over. That night, my phone buzzed with Alicia's texts. "You just left. Do you know how much face I lost? You hurt Anthony first, and now you're ghosting me. I only helped him because he reminded me of you. You've changed. If you don't reply tonight, we might as well call off the wedding." I flipped the phone face down and ignored it. The next few days, silence. The day before the engagement, both families started prepping for the ceremony. Clearly, Alicia hadn't told her parents about the breakup. Fine. I'd say it all tomorrow. When they were gathered, I'd been partying and drinking a lot lately, enjoying freedom. When I got home that night, a few drinks in, something felt off. The cleaner had come, but I could tell someone else had been here. Towels moved. Fingerprints. On my piano. Sheets changed. Hair on the floor, her long waves. His short brown strands. I smiled. Some people try to hide their betrayal. Others leave it for you to find. I looked at the used condom in the trash. Pulled out my phone, and called my assistant. "Call the police. Someone broke into my apartment." Her actions were like those of a clown, so unworthy of attention. I pulled my arm away from hers and brushed off my clothes. Alicia froze on the spot, visibly awkward. My parents quickly noticed the tension and asked, What's going on between you two? Did you have an argument? If there's any misunderstanding, you should clear it up now. You're about to get engaged, after all. My mom walked over and comforted Alicia, patting her hand. Alicia seemed to find comfort in my mom's words and spoke with a hurt expression. It's just a small misunderstanding, and he hasn't spoken to me for days. I thought at least he'd pretend to get along in front of the elders. I sneered coldly. What's there to pretend? Didn't you say you wanted to break up? Alicia's eyes reddened. I was just saying that in the heat of the moment, both my parents and hers began to criticize me. You're the man. You should be the one to compromise. Is there anything that can't be solved? You can't always argue over such small things. You're adults now. You need to be responsible for your actions. I raised my hand to stop them. Of course I understand all of that. So Alicia, how about you explain to the parents what happened between you and my student Anthony at my place last night? And what about the condom in the trash? Care to explain that? Alicia, did this really happen? Alicia's father immediately turned serious, his voice rising in anger. Alicia stood frozen, unable to process the situation at first. My parents were also in shock. Noah, you can't just say such things. Isn't there some misunderstanding? Alicia's a girl. She can't bear such slander from you. Alicia's mother stepped in front of her, a look of discontent in her voice. But from the beginning, I didn't show the slightest hint of joking. Noah, I only bought him a piano. How could you slander me like this? Alicia finally regained her composure and charged at me, aiming to slap me, but my father stopped her in time. My mother's expression also hardened. What exactly is going on here? I know my son's character. If you hadn't done something out of line, he wouldn't be acting like this. Alicia took a deep breath and began to explain. Mom, Dad, it's not like he said. Anthony and I have a clean relationship. Nothing happened. The other night, we went to Noah's apartment because we got our clothes dirty from a street cleaning truck, and we had nowhere else to go to change. Think about it. If there was really something going on between us, would we be so blatant about it? Alicia's face was full of grievance, her eyes already brimming with tears. Her parents rushed to wipe her tears away sympathetically. Noah, back then, Alicia really liked you, and that's why the Sue family chose to arrange this marriage with your family. We didn't expect you not to appreciate her. We must have misjudged you. Now that things have escalated like this, I think we should call off the engagement. Alicia's father frowned and said solemnly. I raised an eyebrow. I should be the one saying that. Alicia, we're calling off the engagement. My mother patted my hand to calm me down. Noah, your father and I support every decision you make, but Alicia wasn't happy with this. As we turned to leave, she suddenly grabbed my hand. Noah, why? You've condemned me without any proof. Do you know how this will destroy my reputation? If we're still getting engaged, you need to present solid proof of my infidelity first. Alicia said this with such certainty, her inner hurt and injustice spilling over. This made those around us sympathize with her. I smiled faintly. After all, the DNA test results wouldn't take much longer to arrive. Fine, let's wait until the evidence is out, and I'll see how you explain this. Alicia's eyes flickered with a glimmer of hope, and she gritted her teeth at me. I'll see what proof you have. I'm not afraid of being wrongfully accused of something I didn't do. Before she left, she dropped a final bombshell. Noah, I had already forgiven you for your emotional abuse and planned to cooperate with you in front of our parents at the engagement ceremony today. But I didn't expect you to pull this stunt. You've really disappointed me. If you still can't figure out where you went wrong, there's no way I can continue this engagement. Think it over. Her words made it sound like I was the one in the wrong, but I didn't want to get caught up in her verbal traps. Since last night, I had already made my decision. Alicia's countless transgressions had used up the last ounce of patience I had for her. So no matter what her attitude was, I had already given up on her. Chapter 5. During the waiting period, I returned to the office to handle work. Now that the tour was over, there were still many affairs that required my personal attention. Social gatherings followed one after another, and after a few days, I was indeed feeling quite exhausted. As the last dinner party was nearing its end, my thoughts wandered elsewhere. I was considering where to go later to relax after successfully closing this deal. However, in the middle of the dinner, the door to the private room suddenly swung open and an unexpected guest appeared. Teacher, please don't cancel the engagement with the teacher's wife. If I had known that was your apartment, I would never have gone there. Please, if you want to blame someone, punish me instead. The clients in the room looked at me with confused expressions. I picked up my wine glass and placed it gently on the table. Sorry everyone, I have some personal matters to attend to. With that, I stood up and left the private room. Behind me, Anthony hesitantly nodded and bowed to the people inside, then followed me out. I lit a cigarette, trying hard to suppress the frustration rising in me. I had planned to settle the score with him later, but now he shamelessly came to confront me. Well, if that's what he wanted, I'd give him what he was asking for. Since you're so eager to admit your mistakes, I might as well acknowledge your efforts. Take your things and get out of my music room. From now on, I no longer have you. As a student, Anthony's face turned pale, and he collapsed onto the floor in disbelief. No, teacher, I finally made it in. You can punish me in other ways. You can even beat me up. I'm fine with that. But please don't expel me. I sneered. I thought you were supposed to have some backbone. But I don't take in students with impure intentions. People like you will eventually ruin my reputation. Now get out. I lifted my foot to step away from his hand. I hadn't applied much force, yet he suddenly toppled backward, his head slamming hard against the floor. Anthony, Alicia's voice rang out from behind. She stared at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. I paused for 2 seconds before slowly retracting my foot. Noah, I saw everything. Alicia rushed over to help Anthony up, urgently checking for injuries. How do you feel? Are you dizzy? Anthony, tears streaming down his face, grasped her hand. I'm sorry, teacher's wife. I just wanted to ask the teacher to forgive us. With teary eyes, he looked at me. Teacher, did this kick make you feel better? Can you reconcile with teacher's wife now? Enough? Alicia gritted her teeth. What kind of skill is it for you to bully Anthony? Noah, you've really changed. Don't forget 10 years ago, your situation was almost identical to Anthony's. But now, with your power, you've become the perpetrator. She carefully helped Anthony, and when she looked at me, there was nothing but disgust in her eyes. I can't believe I was thinking about how to convince my parents to keep the engagement. I guess I was wrong again. Without hesitation, she supported Anthony and left. I stayed by the vent, smoking an entire pack of cigarettes. It wasn't the pain I felt, but rather Alicia's words suddenly brought back memories from the past. She always thought she knew me only after I became famous, but that wasn't the case. Many years ago, when I was just a penniless struggling young man, we were already classmates. Her sympathy and regret for my past were merely the glossed-over version polished by the shine of my current success. Just, like now, she still couldn't remember how I had secretly been in love with her for so many years.